Before we get started, I wanted to give a quick disclaimer. Please remember to be respectful at all times, as these are people's stories, life, and opinions that they are having, which are all okay to have. Also, some conversations might get a little too deep, which will make some of you guys uncomfortable. If that is the case, please remember that it is always okay to exit, and then I'll see you in the following episode. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Hello guys, welcome to episode 3 of Floating Thoughts. I hope you guys enjoyed the last episode. I can't wait to read more of you guys' feedback. And I have a little special announcement today. I know you guys have heard me say this before, but I am going to have some guests be in and out of some episodes. I'm not really much going to structure it just yet, but it's just going to be in and out, like I just said. So today we have our very first guest. So I am excited to see how kind of this goes and the flow of it. His name is KenDarian Carter. He is a musician and electrician. I'm just kidding. He is a to kind of put it all together, an artist. He is a musician. He is a writer. He might not agree with me for the last two, but he is an athlete and a professor. So, yeah. Hello. How are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm glad to be here. I'm excited to actually already be a part of it, but also actually to see how far your journey goes within this. And I know how much this means to you. So it means everything to me that it means that much to you. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me too. Even though I wanted you on my show, but
yeah, if you guys don't know, he actually does the whole production side of it. Is that what it's called? Production or
yeah,
production side of it. I'm still learning the whole director, production, whatever thing of it, but I know it's hard. So I am very, very grateful that I do have a partner that knows how to do all that, because I really don't know. Before we just jump right in, I do want to start off this podcast by asking you what has been floating around in your head.
I would say something like it has been floating around my head, been floating around in my my mind and this week. But I'd say overall, something that's always on my mind, whether it's throughout the day, before I go to bed, even my dreams. I would say trauma, not even in the sense of I'm dealing with something right now, but just in the sense of I've noticed any time when it comes to me feeling like I'm not validated or wanting to be seen, or certain things that I struggle with, it's always connected to trauma. And it came from, there's this book, I'm going to mess up the name of the book, and I apologize to that author, but I think it's called Shadow Work Journal. And I seen it somewhere, and it was saying within the book, there's I believe different type of, I want to say, exercises that you can do to help you realize whether if you're still dealing with trauma, it's something that you need to get over with, or whether trauma is something that's being a blockage from you actually accomplishing something, or growth within that.
Yeah.
And when I seen it, I was I started getting a feeling, a heat sensation, and I was ooh, what's going on? I know it's hot in Texas, but I got the AC on in here.
Did you do the test?
No. I plan on getting the book, but I'm not scared, but I'm I don't want to get the book, because I'm yo, don't tell me about it.
Yeah.
But I can't say it's been on my mind, just because I've noticed anytime when it's something connected to, family, but I can say my pops. I can say it's something that I can feel it. Anytime we have conversations about that, you can start to feel my emotions get into play. But I start to notice those things. It hinders me when it comes to my artistry and putting stuff out, and my creativity, but then also just my everyday life within me being a human, and me being a man still trying to figure out what it what it means to be a man. Just because, like, I mean, I had plenty of like males around me with my brothers and like my homeboys, but they didn't have their fathers around, so we all were trying to figure out like, and still are trying to figure out like what it truly means to be a man. And I'm going through that journey, and I want to make sure that I'm not trying to skip steps, but also giving myself grace enough to know like you're gonna have like some missteps. You're gonna like fall, stumble. You're gonna have the moments where you don't want to get back up, even though you know you can or you know you have to.
Yeah.
I just feel those particular moments like I don't know. I can feel it like right now. Like I can feel the
Heat.
the heat in my chest, and I think those things it makes me like question. Like, oh, I have some work to do. Like I know trauma is even though I'm not in school, I still have a trauma backpack on my back like every single day that's not there, but I know it's right. I know it's there.
Do you think that, and of course you can say no, like, that's not that at all, but like based on what you said, do you think that, well, you mentioned that it was more so like within your artistry, like whenever that you feel it, I guess, come out more, like the trauma side of things. Do you feel like because you just mentioned that you didn't really have like a father figure, is it in a way the trauma a competition? Not a competition. I don't want it. How do I explain this? Do you think it's more so like I wanted to come out good because I want to prove something to myself because of the lack of something? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say that. It's Kendrick Lamar said it best in the Father Time song, and he was like, "Daddy," I think he said, "Daddy issues made me feel." I forgot. I'm messing the lyrics up, but he was like,
Insert lyrics.
yeah, he was like, no matter like what the like thing is, like I am that N word, and I think within that, it's a competition. It's like not to prove to my like dad, but it's like to prove to myself that I'm good enough, and like those.
But do you think in a way is also like, even if you don't admit it, do you think it also plays a role within to kind of prove like I'm good with, not saying like without you, because I don't want this to come off disrespectful, but more so like I'm good without having that like dad figure. I did good.
Yeah, no, I think it is. I think it is because I can't even give an answer to that. Like I believe it is. Like I believe it is, but I wouldn't want it to be that just because my mom tells me like things about my dad and like how his like upbringing and stuff. So I understand like, oh, it was hard for you to understand what it is to be a dad, but at the same time, that's the choice you made. So I don't blame you, but I accept the fact that, oh, it's your circumstances led you to make that choice, and I can't knock you because that can be me. That can still be me. Yeah. But I'm going through that process of understanding and telling myself like I have to do things. I have to be very aware of what I'm doing because I don't want to join that generational cycle. I don't want that cycle to keep on going because if I'm not aware and I think like, oh, like, yeah, like, my pops wasn't like there or whatever, I'm a slip up and become that. And I don't want to
like
become
follow the same without intentionally wanting to.
Exactly. And it's kind of the saying of the thing you run away from the most, you
become.
Exactly. Yeah. And I don't want to become that, and I want to make sure that I'm aware of that. And I believe that's why that book like stuck to me because I
caught your attention.
Exactly, because I feel like I mean, like I said, like before, like I know it's work to be done, and I want to make sure that I'm taking the proper steps. And I know the book. Don't get me wrong. As much as that book here can probably help me, I know God is the number one source of help that I need. That's really the mainly one that I need. And I can say I want to be able to do the work there first, and also do the work here as well. Because I am here in this world, but I don't want to be of this world within that, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And I think it's so crazy that you brought up this conversation, because just the other day we were having a conversation about validation, right?
Yeah.
And I came across something, and also just kind of more so because I started to build more like my relationship with God. And you know, a lot of people might not agree on this, but I know we had a conversation of like basically seeking validation from others, and sometimes saying that we don't. Just to give a gist of our conversation, it was more so saying like, yes, we say we don't seek validation from others, but then we kind of find ourselves like still seeking it in some shape or form. And that, I actually take that back, because I remember when we had that conversation, I was saying like how, yeah, it's true, because I think you were more on the end of like, I don't seek it from others, and I was like, yeah, but false, because I think sometimes we do, right? Mm-hmm. And while I still kind of stand on that, I also want to say that that's not entirely true, and I actually have changed my opinion, because you know, that's the beauty of having an opinion. You learn maybe some facts, or you just change it. I think that I don't care anymore. You know, I thought I did, but I don't think I care anymore of having that validation for others, because I think I've now entered a whole other kind of like, not phase, maybe it is phase, or journey maybe.
Yeah, this a path in your life where you see, oh, what I was bringing from, like what I learned from that particular path, it's not on. Like
Yeah, but
this is the
also
point where I let it go.
I don't remember what it was that I read, and it's not in the Bible, but I think what I got from the Bible, it was just more so saying like, I don't care for that, because as long as I'm validated from God, it kind of just blocks everything else.
Only God can judge me.
And it's so hard, because I do think that you have to have that faith, right? And your faith really has to be strong for you to let go of like craving that validation from others, because don't get me wrong, I think I still struggle with it here and there, right? But we're human. But I think that as long as I feel like I'm validated by God, it just trumps or stomps everything else. It's just kind of more so like, I really don't care for you to validate me, because at the end of the day is, you know, you're supposed to love God and love yourself. And I think if you love yourself enough, it's kind of like, well, I validate me, and I feel, and what I'm doing, I feel like God validates me, and at the end of the day, that should be enough.
Yeah, and it's that point. The validation is, I know I'm doing right by God because I've read His Word and He told me what is right.
Yeah.
And I'm following those rules. I'm following His Word, and I'm following His lead.
Yeah.
And I'm not allowing the world to take the lead of my life, because if so, then I won't be doing the things of God. I won't be doing righteous things.
Correct.
So it's I can definitely
I do think that I do think that it takes kind of obviously time, because I could say this today and then tomorrow feel that lack of validation and be like, ooh, like I'm questioning that again, you know. But that's again like the beauty of life and having that strong like faith. But I do have a question, because not that it's a competition, but I am genuinely curious. Do you think that like the quote unquote like whole like daddy issues, do you think it weighs a little bit more heavy on men or women? Or do you think it's just you can't really explain it because it has a different relationship?
Yeah, I wouldn't even I mean, everyone has their own like goes through their own circumstances with their parents. Like, there's no perfect parents, but I wouldn't even try to label it. Oh, this particular like sex has the like most like daddy issues, weighs on them more. I would say it weighs more for kids, and everybody was a kid before it. So, and I feel like, given that you was a kid, all you know is mama right there, daddy right there. And then you start growing up and be like, where is daddy? Like, why? Daddy used to be right there all the time, but he's not there no more. Mommy used to be right there all the time, but she's not there no more. And you can't you're innocent, so you can't comprehend what's happening. But you start from that particular like action within your life, or like the situation within your life circumstances, it starts to affect you, and you can't see it because you're a kid. You're blind to that, and that's when the devil comes in and try to make you feel like, oh, you're the reason your parents did this, or this is the reason like
Like
you
self
did this.
guilt.
Exactly. And then you start blaming yourself and you start sabotaging yourself, but you start doing it unconsciously or subconsciously, not
Yeah.
unconsciously. And I think we hurt ourselves so much because that bit of love, which like is a lot, like from our parents, like we yearn for it so much. And I feel like it's crazy because my pops, like I talk to my pops like not every so
Like
often,
here and
but
there,
like
yeah.
often, yeah. But I mean, he be on the move. But it's crazy because as much as whatever's like situation happened in my like parents past, and given that like I haven't like been around like my pops, I still see him as Superman.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because even when I'm around him, I still feel like that kid. But it's crazy because I feel like that kid, but then a moment happens and it's like, oh yeah, like it's like a self realization. Like I realize like, oh, this is not what it is, and then I snap back to reality and be like, don't be fooled by that feeling. But at the same time, I know, yes, I didn't have the relationship with my dad that I wished I had.
Wanted to.
That every kid, I pray every kid could have. Like within all that, like I wish every kid could have. But it's now that I'm grown, it's my choice
Yeah.
to actually let that weigh on me,
Or not.
exactly, or to change, break that cycle, or to do the same thing within that. And I don't. That's when the whole thing about trauma. Like I don't want to. I know I'm going back to the first point, but
No.
I don't
Yeah.
want to. I don't want to allow that to. I want to like that trauma to.
Stop you
Every
from.
time I take 3 steps forward, it makes me take 9 steps backward, and I don't want to do that. Like it pulls me backwards, or I don't want to think I'm going forward, and really I'm not. I'm walking backwards. Or like I'm looking straight, but I'm walking backwards. I don't want to like feel that, but I wouldn't separate it for like men like
And
feeling this
women.
way, women feeling this way. I say it affects us as kids, and it lingers with us, kind of like a shadow, which I actually agree with the like
The
title of
whole
that book.
book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a shadow. It follows us even if you don't see it, but it follows us. And it's a I love horror movies, but as many horror movies as I've seen before, that's the biggest horror a kid could face. Not having a kid, like not having a kid, not having,
I
not
hope
having,
not.
yeah, not having like one parent, both parents, because it affects us whether we want to accept it or not. It's the reason we do certain things. It's the reason we have these vices. It's the reason we listen to the music we listen
Yeah.
to. It's the reason like we cry at night, but then we wake up and act like everything is all right. Like it's the true like ghost, but it's just the devil at work trying to get you to lose sight of God. And I think it can make you lose sight of it. I'm not gonna say like, oh, I'm straight ahead. It's like, nah, like it definitely it can,
Plays a
well, it
role.
can make you go left and forget there's a right. But I think understanding, like actually being able to talk about it, but understanding like, oh, I'm grown now. I can't let that affect
Affect
me.
me.
Like,
Yeah.
because if so, then my kids gonna grow up and be like, oh, well, daddy, you was too. Daddy,
Sorry.
look, my kids. It was like you was too. It was like you was too much worried about your like pop situation. You didn't give me no time, and now I'm like, huh? And then I think like that I won't have that. I won't, like,
Yeah.
I will not have that. And yeah, I think that's, yeah.
No, that's a really good point, because I do think that, that's, you started off by saying that has been lingering in your mind, but like just trauma in general. But then you kind of dive. It's interesting how sometimes we say that we don't know, like it's so easy to say like, oh, it's trauma, and then somebody can ask us like, well, what kind of trauma, and then you're like, that's Luna Tuna. Sketch yourself. But sometimes then we're like, oh, I don't know, like I don't know what kind of trauma it is. But it's so interesting how you went from trauma and you know exactly what it is.
Mm.
Like it was like, oh, you explained a little bit with like your dad, and you know where it kind of stems from.
No.
But for everybody that's like watching, obviously maybe you are going to through a situation just like that it can be, you know, very, very, very similar. And then for others, it could be the complete opposite of like, it could be still trauma, but maybe it's not your dad. It has nothing to do with your parents, but it still plays a huge role in your everyday life of like the accomplishment of things. And just to kind of make a little disclaimer, there's a lot going on in here. Okay, there's like, we have the dogs drinking water, and it's so interesting because we'll literally stop filming and they'll go to sleep.
Or be quiet as a mouse.
Yeah, like they all just suddenly want to take naps. And whenever we're filming, they're like, oh, it's
camera
Gobo.
time. What?
Sue
Lights,
me.
camera,
Like,
action. Let's go.
So if you guys hear like little nails around and
water being drunk,
that's what's going on. And then they're super clingy, so you can see her right here in the corner, just wanting to be part of this podcast. But no, I think that we obviously all have trauma that we go through, and nobody is going through it at the what is it called, not at the same time, but more so nobody's trauma is the same. But I think that one thing that we can all agree on is that it takes time. You know, and one of the biggest things that I do want to say right now is that I am proud of you, because
thank you.
You've kind of accepted it. You know, when we first started dating, I'm not going to get too deep because this is his story, but when we first started dating, it was very hard to even just kind of touch down on certain conversations, because of course, not even if it's your parents, but it's kind of your life, and you're kind of more so like, you're wrong, or you don't want to admit to a lot of things, or maybe you're still trying to even process it if it's that. And I think now, 3 years later, we kind of reached a point where 3 years for us in our relationship, but you know, it could have been longer for you.
Forever to go. Nah,
but it's
definitely.
kind of like you reached that point where you've kind of accepted it, and right now it was kind of a moment of like, oh, it does play a big role, and I'm not ashamed to admit it, because it's probably seen, you know?
And not to cut you off, but I can definitely say, like, thank you, because I won't say you allowed me, because it's not bad, but you've helped me, like, understand it's okay to be aware of it, but don't be aware of it and just be like, oh, cool, I'm aware of it. No, be aware of it and actually do some work to see, like, why, like, figure out the why, ask why, like, have conversations about it. But one, like, talk to God first about it, because you can talk to people about it, but they'll tell you the wrong stuff and make you feel like, oh yeah, like let me do that. But I think you've helped me understand it's okay to like have those feelings, but it's
what
not
okay. Kind of doing about it,
But it's not okay to bottle it in and then take it out on other people, and not be aware because you're not aware of the
or like, you don't want to. You don't exactly like that. Like, you don't want to do anything about it. It's more so like, oh no, I'm just gonna.
This is just who I am. Yeah, it's like
I don't want to say I hate that, because that is such a strong like word. I really don't like the word hate either. But I dislike that about people sometimes, whenever they're so quick to be like, I don't care. That's just who I am. That's just because I do believe that there's some qualities about me that I could 100% change. I'm not perfect. Vice versa. No, and I think that there should always be room. He's like saying, there's some qualities. I'm just kidding. But no, there are some qualities that I do think that we can all improve on. And we're growing and evolving each and every single day. Just kind of how I said at the beginning, like, I changed my opinion on something, and it's like, what? You know, that's being human. You change and evolve. You learn a lot of things. You learn lessons, and you're supposed to grow. I think I have a problem if you are not growing, you know, and if you're just more stuck on.
Sorry, could you?
No, go ahead.
It's like what we said in the conversation we had the other day. It's be content, but never complacent.
Is it right?
Like, always be content, but never complacent.
100%. And I think that, like I was saying, there is a problem if you just feel like, you take me as I am, or what is it saying, or you can watch me leave, or whatever, right? And most people, not like that, but most people are like, oh, I'll watch you leave because I'm not taking you as your, you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people have problems with the whole, oh, they don't accept me. But it's not that they don't accept you, but it's more so that that person does see that you can heal from something or you can grow from that, and it's like you just don't want to. And when you kind of put that wall up, it is very sometimes draining and sometimes hard for the other person, whether you're in a relationship or in a friendship or just association, for the other person to kind of keep telling you like you do have that potential, you are capable, and then you just don't want to see it. And I say don't want to see it because we all have that choice to also like try. And if you just don't try, then yeah, you're never going to see it, you know?
It's the saying of your baggage is not my job to make sure it's neat. It's not my
Yeah.
job to heal your like trauma. It's your job to do that. And sometimes people lose sight of that because they aren't aware of it, and they throw it on their significant other, their
Yeah.
friends, their parents, which is crazy. And it's like you don't know how much of a burden that is on others because they are dealing with their own trauma as well.
Yeah.
So you're putting extra on that person to not make yourself feel better, but to heal, quote unquote, heal
Yeah.
yourself, which is selfish.
Yeah, and then sometimes I do think that just kind of how like you said, like sometimes we are so focused on fixing somebody else's problems because you want to seem like you don't have any, or you just are kind of hiding the fact that you also have some healing to do. And it's so much quicker to be like, let's worry about you and then kind of forget about
Come to me, yeah.
because you know. But if the roles are switched, then it's a problem, you know. And I think that that's no, and it's hard also. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think that sometimes it's harder for, you know, women. They always call us sensitive and we're more emotional and stuff. And I don't care. I like that. I'm emotional. I am. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. But I am very logical too. But just more so like I do express my feelings a lot. But I do think that from a men's perspective, if there are any guys and men watching this, I know it's hard to also admit that you're going through something because you have also the world seeing you as exactly that, a man. You're supposed to be strong and you're not supposed to really go through things, quote unquote, or you're not really allowed to go through things because it's like, well, as a woman I already struggle emotionally, so why do you get to struggle too, you know? But you are also like not alone, and I know I tell you this all the time, but you know, you are allowed to feel as well.
It's crazy because it's the whole conversation that's going around. Like it's always going around, but when God made women to be man's helpmate, and some women just can't like accept that. God wasn't saying, "Oh, you just help me." No. I'm gonna help you too.
Yeah.
Man's supposed to help you too, but if your man isn't helping you, oh, well, you don't got a man, sweetie. You got a boy, and vice versa. You don't have a woman.
You have a girl.
You have a girl, yeah. And I think you have a young lady who's still trying to figure out what it means to be a woman. And I think don't take it as a sign of, oh, like, baby, you helped me with my emotional side. Like, I always knew I was sensitive and I knew I was emotional, but I was like, but I was like, man, I ain't showing that. Tuck that. I was like, I'm gonna just take that to the chin and keep it pushing, but they roll some dirt on it. But you've allowed me to understand it's okay to feel, but also don't allow your emotions to fog your life. Fog you like it's like in a car. Don't allow your emotions to fog your windshield because you ain't gonna know where you're going, and you may run right into a tree. And I don't want to bring you with me crashing into that tree because I don't know how us crashing may affect you. And then I'm like, oh, well, I'm good, but you hurting, and now I'm hurting even more because I'm like, dang, I didn't mean to hurt you. And that's deep. That's deep.
He always says stuff like that. He's always like, ooh, I should have written that down. No.
Nah. No. But I just think that's the it's the collateral beauty.
Yeah.
I think, and that's the things that we won't consider beauty, but it's beauty in it because that trauma it's a lot of beautiful growth behind that comes after it.
100%.
Yeah, and it's like if I I pray everybody is able to become more aware of their trauma and actually be able to get to the point where you're able to shame that devil and talk about it. But I feel once that happens, there's gonna be so much like so many people love flowers, but it's more beautiful when a human blooms.
Yeah.
And I think that's like
I like that.
yeah
I really do like that. And I think to kind of close out the episode, I do want to say first and foremost that it does take a lot to admit that. So like I said, I know I said it earlier, but I am very proud of you because
thank you.
it is not easy to just say like, oh, like this is exactly what it is, you know? And I know I don't want to dive too deep into it. Just like I wouldn't do it for him, I wouldn't do it for anybody until like something that, you know, you are probably still working on and you don't probably want to share just yet because it's probably something, again, that you're still working on and it takes time.
I am, and I respect that. Thank you.
I do want to say that first and foremost, but I also just to, like I said, to kind of close it out, what is something that you want to like kind of like say to someone that's probably going through the same thing? Again, not necessarily like with parents or anything like that, but just like with the trauma of like what should they do, because again, I know you're still working on it yourself, but just like something that is going to be more so like you're fine, you know, and kind of like that. Like what kind of advice would you give to someone?
I say because I'm not a fan of like giving advice because I feel like I'm human. I can fail you, and I don't want to do that. So my one, I was gonna say advice, but my one thing I would tell that person is pray, like pray before you cry out to someone else. And when I mean someone else, I mean a human, your friend, your significant other, your husband, wife, your mama, daddy, whoever within this world.
The whole time.
Yeah, nah, definitely. Whoever, cry out to God. That's really the one spirit, not person, and it's power within what I just said from a spirit and a person. The one that created us. Cry out to Him because He's been waiting for you since the moment it happened and that trauma was started following you or formulated. He was waiting for you to come talk to Him. Pray. There's not a medicine a doctor can prescribe to you better than God. And I'll leave it at that.
That's great. I mean, I was going to say advice too, but that's great. To kind of, end it off. And if you guys, like I said, if you guys are going through something like that or just kind of needed that, definitely like you could reach out to him. I'm also going to put on his like social media information and stuff like that. But know that you are not alone, and there are people Luna's just like there's people that are going through the same thing. I'm never going to say if not worse, because I actually don't like that either. What you're going through is validated, and I feel like don't ever feel like you're going through anything alone, because one, kind of like we mentioned, you're not. God is always there with you, whether you see it or not. And then you do have people that care about you, but sometimes whenever we put ourselves in this mindset that we're going through something, we kind of block literally everything, and then we literally put ourselves in a hole where nobody cares about me. All these negative thoughts start coming out, and it's so crazy. But I did want to share something before we close it out. We went to a HotWorks class today, and out of the blue, I feel like, I don't know if this called you out to you, right? Which is so random, but we were literally sweating our butts off, right? And I was literally ready to kill that instructor because, oh my gosh. But she said something, and since I heard it, this was early in the morning, it stuck with me, and it literally said like, I can't remember the exact number, but it literally said that we have like 80,000 something thoughts in our mind daily, right? And out of all those, 80% of those are negative. And so it's kind of crazy to think that. I need to fact check that, but either way, I kind of believe it though. But even it's just kind of crazy to say that that is a possibility of it being true, and because of those thoughts we put ourselves deeper into a negative space where we think that we're suddenly alone and that nobody cares about us, and that causes us more harm than good. So I do want to say that try to flip that number around, not even for the world but just for yourself. If you do have 80,000% of those thoughts, I mean, we do have 80,000% thoughts a day, and 80% of those are negative. Flip it, and maybe let's make 80% of those positive, and then yeah, we're not, it's not always going to be a perfect day or a perfect life, but again, it's just a day, and it's not your life, and you define who you want to be, not, you don't let the world define you. So
That was a great ending. I have to add, it's in the Bible. Genesis, it's crazy. It's the first book of the Bible. It said, God said, man's thoughts and the man's heart is darkness, is evil, which is crazy because you would think,
yeah.
but that's why I don't like when people say follow your heart.
Yeah.
No, the saying is your heart can deceive you. So why would I follow my heart? And then man's thought is evil. You'll know when it's of God, when your thought is of God, it's good, it'll benefit you, and not in a sense of feel good, because most of the things that feel good ain't good for you. So I think like those things, it's crazy that you said that. I wouldn't even say 80%. I'd probably say sanitizer, 99.9.
No,
So,
but no, that's
sorry.
that's so crazy how it just kind of aligned. But yeah, so if you are that kind of just even helped me. But if you are going through something like that, please, please, please know that you are not alone, and you always have someone you can reach out to. And if you feel like you don't have someone to reach out to, we're right here. You can literally reach out to us. And I mean, we'll try our best. I won't say I give you the best advice or anything like that, because I'm also human. But know that all those floating thoughts that you might be having, not all of them are possibly good, but let's try to turn them all into good thoughts and something that would uplift you and not deter you. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope to see you in this next podcast. Bye.